All right, I think that's all 7 of us on time today. All right, it is 7 p.m. and we are all here. So I think we can just get started. Thank you to everyone for attending the Planning Commission meeting this evening, the final meeting of 2022. The Planning Commission will continue to hold meetings remotely via Zoom until such time as it is determined that it is safe to meet in person. Ongoing COVID and I guess now RSV and all those fun things. Please know that we want to hear from you if you are in the audience and you would like to address the commission during public comment for an item on the agenda. Please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. When it is your turn to speak, planning staff will call your name and unmute you, and you will be given 3 minutes to address the commission. If you are joining by telephone, you may also address the commission during public comment by pressing *9. Staff will address you by your phone number and unmute you. You will also be given 3 minutes to address the commission. Please note, anyone in attendance may only speak once per agenda item. I am requesting a roll call. Who is our staff person that's managing this evening? All right, Alessio, thank you.
Or Chair Harmon, I may suggest introduction first. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to switch the order on our agenda. So.
Oh, sure. Well, we have a new member of the commission joining us this evening. Welcome, Commissioner Kuhn. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that adequately.
Yeah, I'm Thomas Kuhn. It's a pleasure to join you all. I promise to work hard and be unbiased.
Welcome.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So roll call. Chair Harmon.
Present.
Vice Chair Madden. Commissioner Biasotti.
Here.
Commissioner Durazo.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Kuhn.
Here.
Commissioner Letton.
Here.
7-0 present. You have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much. I guess moving on to our Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Kuhn, would you care to lead us in the pledge this evening?
It would be my pleasure. Can I ask everyone to stand? Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item is our approval of the November 29th, 2022 minutes. Did anyone have any concerns with the content of the minutes, or do we have a motion?
Through the chair, I move that we approve the minutes of September 20th, 2022.
Are you looking at the wrong agenda?
But let me look. I pulled it up from the meeting.
I think the meeting that we're approving is at least the agenda says November 29th. I actually didn't compare that to the packet.
Yeah. And it also has, I've scrolled down to the minutes, and it has September 20th and November 17th, 2022.
Oh, those were the minutes that were approved at the last meeting.
Yeah. I think you're looking at the agenda of the previous meeting from November 29th. So the one we are approving
possibly
is November 29th.
Well, I approve the minutes as date stated.
Sure.
I can double check my.
I will second a motion to approve the minutes of November 29th, 2022.
All right. Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Aye.
Commissioner Letton.
Aye.
7-0 motion passes.
All right. At this time, we would welcome public comment for items not on our agenda. If anyone in the audience cares to comment on an item of concern to the Planning Commission that isn't agendized, now is the time to raise your hand. We'll just give a brief moment. I do not see any hands. If staff can confirm.
No hands.
All right. Moving right along, do we have any announcements of conflicts of interest this evening on any of our public hearings? Aha.
Through the chair, I'm going to be recusing myself from items A and B because of my relationship with the architect.
So you're just out for the evening.
There's a C.
Oh,
I'll
there's
stay
C.
with
That's
C.
right. There
Yeah.
you go. All right. Yes. Scrolling down.
Okay.
All right, then. Okay, well, I guess we should move Commissioner Lethine to the attendees group as we are moving into our first public hearing then. We're having technical difficulties.
I just moved her.
There we go. All
It
right.
just took a while. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So our first public hearing is 768 Easton Avenue, just over by Rolling Pin. And staff presentation, please.
Yes, hello. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Paul. I am the project planner for the proposal at 768 East Avenue. So architectural review permit AR 22-008 and use permit UP 22-005. So this is a request for a use permit to allow the construction of a 915 square foot first floor addition and a new 841 square foot second floor addition, which increases the existing single family home by 1,756 square feet and results in an increase of more than 50% of existing gross floor area. So the location of the site is on Easton Avenue between San Bruno Avenue and Keynes Avenue. Lot size is 5,000 square feet. Max floor area is 2,750 square feet. Max lot coverage, 2,750 square feet. And a max impermeable area of 4,250 square feet. And it is currently a one-story, 798 square foot home with a detached garage of 657 square feet, as well as a 116 square foot shed in the rear yard. And 1,455 square feet of gross floor area is what it currently is. And the shed is not included in that gross floor area. Actually, since it is under 120 square feet. And it has 1,498 square foot of lot coverage and 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Here are some photographs of the property from the front as well as from the rear, as well as of the detached garage in the rear yard. Here are some more photographs of the rear yard, as well as the shed. Here are some of the nearby properties across the street. and left and right of it. And here are some of the other surrounding properties. So the proposed project is a first floor addition, 950 square feet, 385 square feet of which will be a JADU, and a second floor addition of 841 square feet. Total increase of 1,756 square feet. And it will make for an additional 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. So 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms in total. And of course, ADUs and JADUs are ministerial and they do not count towards gross floor area and lot coverage. So looking at floor area, once you subtract the JDU, the floor area ratio comes out to 0.565, and the gross floor area comes to 2,826 square feet. So here are the site plans. On the left is the existing site plan, and the build structures are highlighted, and on the right is what's proposed. So essentially, you can see they're extending the house into the rear yard and adding a second story. Here are the floor plans. So this is the first floor, and you can see the JADU is highlighted. Here is the new second floor. Here we have the front elevations. And you'll notice that they're changing the appearance of the home from siding to stucco, and that's standard for the neighborhood as well. Here's the rear elevation, left side elevation, and right side elevation. And worth mentioning here is that the highlighted windows on the right there, we are recommending that the applicant modify those windows due to privacy concerns. And in our last meeting for ARC, the applicant, I believe, did comment and said that they would be open to doing that. So here's a closer look at that. Again, just for privacy reasons. And also worth mentioning is that it's been established that even with these windows modified, it would still be compliant with the fire code. That second story window would still be there on the front elevation. So our recommendation is to approve architecture ARC permit AR 22-008 and use permit 22-005. It conforms with the goals, policies, and standards for zoning code and general plan. And it maintains the character of the neighborhood. It will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. And it creates an attractive bowling environment. And that's all for me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions for staff to clarify the presentation before we move to public comment? I am not seeing any hands. I just wanted to quickly ask regarding that window change. Is this we're suggesting that they use a clerestory style window to keep it above? Yeah, for privacy. Totally reasonable. Great. That was the only question I had, just to make sure I knew what was going on with that. Still not seeing any other hands, so I guess we can open for public. Oh, actually, do we have a presentation from, so if this is staff, did we have an applicant presentation as well? Obviously optional.
I don't believe so.
Okay, then for public comment, I do see one hand. Oh, maybe I don't.
Yeah, Andrea raised her hand. She is the applicant and architect for
Oh,
this
yeah, I
project.
mean, she's definitely certainly welcome to address us briefly if she's interested.
All right, Andrea, you now have permission to speak.
Hi, good evening. I'm the designer of this project. I want to make a comment about the windows. My client decided instead of, obscure that window, she would like to have more like a high, long type of window to, to be able to have the bed under that window, and then removing the window from the stairs is totally fine for privacy. We still have the egress window that faces the front of the house. And then we try to work on articulation, especially on, if you see this neighborhood, it has the 2-story houses are pretty bulky. And so we try to work on articulation of this house. So that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion from the commission? Comments? Or do we simply want to make a motion?
Through the chair, I'm happy to make a motion. I'm just looking for the, as I scroll here, I'm looking for the,
Well, I have it in front of me. I will just observe. I think it's a lovely project. I think looking at the neighborhood and comparing it. I spent a lot of time walking through that neighborhood. Too many visits to Rolling Pin, but I think it's a great project and adds valuable living space in an area that's very, very close to transit. And so I'm delighted to move to approve use permit UP 22005 and architectural review permit AR 22008 based on findings 1 to 3 for the use permit and 4 to 8 for the architectural review and conditions of approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden, Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Aye.
6001 motion passes.
Great. So then we are on to public hearing 7B, 1511 Crestwood Drive. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes, we do. I will be presenting that item real quick. Give me a minute of screen share. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Nevi Sale-Amayev, the lead planner for this project. And the subject site is 1511 Crestwood Drive. This is a request for an architectural review permit to allow a residential addition that would increase the overall floor area of the single family residence by more than 1,000 square feet. And it is also a request for a use permit to allow a residential addition that would exceed the existing floor area by more than 50%. And the project numbers are AR 22-009 and UP 22-006. So the subject site is located on Crestwood Drive between Rollingwood Drive and Fleetwood Drive. This is in the Rollingwood #1 subdivision. The subject lot measures 5,949 square feet and currently consists of a 1-story single-family home with an attached 2-car garage. And it has a gross floor area and a lot coverage of 1,907 square feet. The home was built in 1956 and includes 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. This is the subject property from the view of Crestwood Drive. And then to your right, you have the setbacks. Now, The property is it's surrounded by a variety of land uses. This is actually the R1 district. Nearby, you have the R3 district, and it's to the west of I-280. So most of the houses here in this neighborhood were built around the same time between 1954 and 1958. So they have very similar architectural styles. The properties to the right and left and across the street are single story, but if you go up towards Crestwood Drive, up towards the hill, you see some split story homes. And if you look at the top right corner, you see the 2 apartment complexes in the R3 zoning district, which are multifamily homes. Now, the proposed project includes a new second story addition of 1,027 square feet. On the first floor, it has an addition of 63 square feet, which will be added to the garage. And the project will also have an interior remodel to the first floor. So the total proposed addition is 1,090 square feet. And this would increase the existing home from 1,907 square feet to 2,997 square feet. And this is less than the maximum permitted FAR. The FAR proposed here is 0.504. The lot coverage would slightly increase to 1,970 square feet, and the home will now have 4 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. Now, when it comes to the changes of the first floor, I highlighted it in yellow for you guys to see. That is a 63 square foot addition to the garage. And the purpose for this is to expand the existing storage area to have more room for the pantry and laundry space. But the lower floor will also be remodeled to have an open concept kitchen and living room. And it will also increase the size of the bedrooms. It will remove some of the walls to implement the new stairway and a new powder room. The second floor addition it will consist new bedrooms, and most of it will actually be the master bedroom, walk-in closet, master bathroom. They will also have a sauna and a gym. The property owner is very into fitness, so they will be utilizing that space for fitness. Now, when it comes to the elevations, they will utilize material that is consistent throughout the neighborhood. So that includes stucco, vinyl windows, asphalt shingles, and for the garage, it will be a stained wood garage door. You could also see that they implemented some facade articulation with varied roof lines, step backs, insets, and roof overhangs. So this is the elevation to the rear. These are to the side. And this is the other side. Now, some key conditions of approval that we received are 2 from Public Works. So our engineer determined that the existing shed, which is highlighted in blue to the left, is located within a 20-foot public utility easement. And since it has a foundation, it's considered a permanent structure. And the condition is that the property owner shall remove the shed. The second key condition is regarding the 20-foot easement in the rear, but there's also a 5-foot easement highlighted in yellow to the north. And our engineer determined that there's some brick planters, a 6-foot fence, a side gate, and some other side planter walls that are located within these easements. So the property owner has the option to either remove them or apply for an existing encroachment acknowledgement permit. I was notified that the applicant has started conversations with the Public Works Department to satisfy these 2 conditions. So on November 10th, the Architectural Review Committee considered these items and recommended Planning Commission approval, and staff recommends that you approve architectural review permit AR 22-009 and use permit UP 22-006 for the following findings. We find that it conforms with the standards of the zoning code and the general plan. It also conforms with the character of the neighborhood since it's consistent with the design elements of the residential design guidelines. It will not be detrimental to the public health. One thing to note is due to the orientation of the building, it will not create a significant impact on privacy and solar access to the adjoining properties. And we find that the architect did a very good job with the design of this building. It creates an attractive environment by utilizing different architectural features. And for this reason, we recommend it to you guys. And thank you for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And the architect is also present as well.
Thank you, Mr. Amaya. Are there any clarifying questions regarding the presentation at this time? I am not seeing any hands from our commission. Do we have a presentation from the applicant at all or comments? Again, optional. If they are attending, though, of course, they're welcome to address us. I don't see any hand raised in our attendees. Do we have comments on this project from members of the public? Still not seeing any hands. Do we have any discussion, comments from the commission? Or do we just want to proceed to a motion on it?
Actually, I have a question.
Oh, certainly, Commissioner Kuhn.
You discussed the need, so there's a public utility use easement in the back and the front. This is probably a process question. I'm not understanding if our approval is contingent upon that happening in the future, or how is this process done? Help educate me a little bit.
Yeah, so after Planning Commission approves this project, the applicant will apply for a building permit and they will be able to satisfy these conditions of approval during the building permit issuance process. So they have to satisfy these conditions before the final inspection and our reviewing department sign off on them.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands. Anyone else have any other questions, comments, discussion, or do we have a motion?
Through the chair, if you motion first to close the public comment.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh, too many windows open. All right, well, I will just move to close public comment on this item.
Second.
Can we do this one just by acclamation?
Yes.
All right.
Chair, just as a point of information, through the League of Cities, they indicate that it doesn't require, it could be at the discretion of a chair to close the public comment. It doesn't have to be a vote. It is.
Yeah. Well, especially since it's easier to remember that we need to close public comment when we have any public comment. It just sort of didn't, we haven't had anyone.
Yeah, of course.
So.
But just so you know that it's not a,
Sure.
It's not
it's at the discretion of the chair. So we're consistent in the process.
Okay. All right. We are going to consider public comment on this item closed. Do we have a motion from the commissioner regarding this? I can just make the motion myself if I need to.
Motion to approve use permit UP 22-006 and architectural review permit AR 22-009 based on findings 1 through 3 for use permit and findings 1, 2, 3 for architectural review and conditions of approval 1 through 25. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
and Commissioner Kuhn.
Aye.
6001, motion passes.
All right, and I will note that on any item where the Planning Commission is normally the final decision body, there is a 10-day period for appeal to council, which may carry a fee of a few $100s. You can consult with staff for the details. Contact planning@sanbruno.ca.gov or 650-616-7074 if anybody does want to appeal things. All right, I think that concludes 7B, and we can bring back Commissioner Lathine for our final public hearing.
All right, good evening, commissioners. Our last item tonight is a project at 2371 Bennington Drive, which is a second-story addition in a residential neighborhood. For this second-story addition and first-floor addition, 2 permits are required. An architectural review permit is required because the increase to the home exceeds 1,000 square feet, and the proposed project would result in a square footage exceeding 3,000. A use permit is required because the proposed increase of the existing gross floor area is greater than 50%, and the proposed floor area would exceed the permitted floor area maximum. 2371 Bennington is located at the T intersection of Bennington Drive and Lowell Avenue. It is a typical 5,000 square foot lot, and because the property has a slope of less than 10%, the maximum floor area is 2,750 square feet. The maximum lot coverage is 2,200 square feet, and the maximum impervious surface area is 4,000 square feet. Currently, the property is a 1-story single-family home at 1,654 square feet. Lot coverage calculates to 33% on this 5,000 square foot lot, and there are 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms in the home. Properties nearby include 2-story homes across the street and 1-story homes on both the left and right side of the property. The proposed second story consists of a 1,100 square foot addition. The proposed first floor consists of a 428 square foot addition and a kitchen remodel. The total of these additions is 1,528 square feet, which would result in a total gross floor area of 3,182 square feet with a floor area ratio of 0.64. Lot coverage increases to 2,082 square feet, or 41.6% of the lot. The proposal will result in 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. In the proposed site plan, the addition of the first floor extends out, but it does not encroach into the front yard setback area. You will also see the current paved driveway will be replaced with permeable pavers to ensure the project complies with the maximum impervious surface area of 4,000 square feet. The first floor includes the addition of a dining room, which will extend out towards the front yard by 14 feet and 2 inches. The kitchen remodel will also occur and the addition of stairs along the existing bedroom. The proposed second story includes a master bedroom, a master bathroom, walk-in closet, a family room, an office, and a small laundry room. After this project was brought to the Architectural Review Committee on November 10th, the applicant added 2 narrow windows in the master bedroom. Now we are going to go over elevations. Up first is the front elevation. Next is the southwest side elevation, and I've highlighted the windows that I just mentioned. Third is the rear elevation. And lastly, we have the northeast side elevation. Based on analysis, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Architectural Review Permit AR 22-007 and Use Permit UP 22-004 based on the recommended conditions of approval, revised plans, and the following findings. The project conforms with the goals, policies, and standards of the zoning code and general plan because the design of the addition is compatible with the neighborhood character. The project conforms with the character of the neighborhood based on the use of similar materials and design of neighboring homes. The project will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. And the project creates an attractive building environment because it includes a variety of building styles and designs, such as step backs, insets, roof overhangs, varied roof lines, and material changes to break up the mass of the home. All right, and that is all for this item. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any clarifying questions regarding the presentation?
Quick question. The floor area ratio seemed pretty high. Is that above our typical norms?
I don't know if it's above the typical, but let me go back to that slide. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about the typical size of homes in San Bruno.
I want to say they're usually like below 0.6, if I remember correctly, but just a hair below. But okay.
Through the chair, I can respond to that. So yes, that's typically the case. So the Planning Commission does have the discretion to approve floor area beyond what is the floor area that's that we calculate based on the size and the slope of the lot with a discount. Depending on if the lot is more than 5,000 square feet, it's slightly discounted for determining the floor area. So, really, the allowance is in the code to allow for more floor area. Given that if the setting and the appearance of the home and are such that the additional floor area is still allows the home to be consistent with the neighborhood. So you do have that discretion.
Yeah, it looks like according to the summary sheet, the limit is 0.55 and we're at 0.64. So that's significant overage. And there's no ADU in this one, right? So we'd be making a kind of an exception to what we normally do, approving one this large, it seems.
Through the chair, I know that our official code says the point. I'm sorry, Commissioner Madden or Vice Chair Madden just said it was the 0.5, but I know that following the Crestmore explosion and the rebuild there, we kind of have a new limit. Though it's not official. I just don't have my cheat sheet in front of me, but I can run and grab it real quick. But does any other commissioner or staff have that number?
Through the chair, I think we've been using 0.62. Was the largest one in Crestmore that we approved.
0.62? I'm going to run for my cheat sheet.
Somewhere, I'm going totally by memory, but I believe it was 0.67 was the largest ones that we approved.
Well, I'm just going to observe that I think it's important to just in principle consider that the sort of the point of these limits is that they describe what you can do without discretionary review at all, right? That if you stay under the various limits,
That's right.
or the percentage expansion and the floor area and blah, 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 you don't even come to planning commission.
That's
It's
correct.
just assumed that it's fine. And so, I think, okay, like it's over the limit, so we have discretion to review it. But the whole point of the discretionary review is that, like, yes, if it's very, very big, it might be offensive in some way or a problem for the neighbors. And so this gives an opportunity to have a conversation, gives an opportunity for a neighbor to get a notice and come and complain. But it isn't necessarily mean that it shouldn't be approved. That the point is that it's this objective standard exceeds some limit. It's flagged for review. We talk about it, but I wouldn't. If you tried to do like a 1.5 floor area ratio in an R1 neighborhood, then it might just by itself as an objective standard, you might go, huh. But I think being at 0.64 when the sort of point at which we review it is 0.55 doesn't seem disqualifying.
Can I? Yeah, I'd like to ask staff, could you go back to show a slide with X? I think it brings up a good point on bulk. And
Sorry, could you repeat that? You cut out for the last second for me.
Yeah, can you show a slide that shows the setbacks,
Oh, sure.
particularly the front and rear? I think that can tell a story of the bulk, not just the pure square footage.
Is this the correct slide?
Is it? Yeah, that shows setbacks. Can you see so 20 feet on the front and 26 on the back, not really any changes, right? So no, would it be true to say there's no increase in the general bulk of the floor plate?
That is correct.
I guess the way I would describe it is that they're sort of infilling a gap in the space they're not expanding towards the property line in any direction.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
The existing garage that's closer than our standard setback, but grandfathered, I'm guessing.
The current distance from sidewalk to garage that we require is 20 feet. I don't know
the side setback, and that's
I'm
very
sorry.
common. My own house has that feature where the existing garage was built in like 1940, and it is closer than the modern setback, but is grandfathered.
Are you referring to this 3 foot?
Yes,
side
yeah,
setback?
that gap,
Yes.
that 3 foot, that sounds like it has to be lower than what we would
Yes.
currently require, and then you can see the step back to whatever that is, 5 or 6.
The home was built in 1957. So if that's any indication.
Yeah, but there's no additional encroachment into the setbacks. Were there any other questions regarding the presentation?
Through the chair, just actually, it's just a comment. I think that you described it quite well, Commissioner Harmon, and also the same goes with the garages. There's also this threshold of number 1825 triggers 2-car garages. And I don't remember the 3,000 something that triggers the third car garage, but we take into consideration, is there space? Does it change there's just a lot of, and when we look at it, it's adding over and above a bedroom that's not the typical 3-4 bedroom, then there's discussion around that. But, it's not, nothing's cut in stone. You sort of move it around to see what's taking place. And I think that your description of indicating that it's filling in a gap, I think it's really perfect.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. If there are not additional clarifying questions from the commission for staff, do we have any comments from the applicant? I don't see a hand raised. Was the applicant in attendance this evening?
The applicant is not in attendance, but we do have the homeowner.
I see a hand.
Brenda, you have permission to speak. Let's see. Give me a sec.
That you were right. The open space, there's an open space there. So we're just trying to close that up and then build the second floor on that, on top of that.
Great, thank you. Did you, I mean, if you have any other comments, or, you know, I mean, obviously optional. If not, we can move on to other public comment.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being with us this evening. Do we have any public comment on this project?
I see no hands raised, Chair.
All right, I will move that we close public comment.
I'll second.
And do we have any objections, or can we consider it closed? I was just going to go with the acclamation. Cool. All right. Do we have any other further discussion or other concerns to go over before moving on to a motion? Commissioner Lathine.
Thanks. I do actually have concern about the floor area ratio. Although the project itself seems really thoughtfully and well designed, I know in the past we have really held every applicant that we've seen to the 0.62 FAR. And we've done that quite often out of respect for the people who were rebuilding their homes after the explosion. And I, based on precedent, don't feel comfortable approving something at the 0.64. I want to stay at the 0.62.
Yeah, I have a similar concern, just about precedent setting.
Through the chair. I would agree. That's, you know, it's a fair comment. I think that when you look at what expansion is, and it is infringing on front or back or side setbacks, then I would say that's something to, but I think in this circumstance, because it is unique and it is filling in the gap, I think that the setting of precedence is not the case, because this is a unique situation where the space is within and not expanding anything further that impacts neighborhood. So for the mere fact of it being a logistic and setting a precedence, I feel in this circumstance that it's a unique situation, and for those reasons I do support it.
You know, I'm sorry, I don't understand the precedent. Actually, this is probably because I'm new. I might have to ask after. It's probably a long story that's not appropriate for this meeting. What I am thinking though is, you know, although this might be above that precedent, it certainly would not have been the only project above that with the ADU rules. Is that correct?
Well, the ADU rules, I mean, Michael can clarify as well, but the ADU rules are that a portion of the overall structure set aside as an accessory or junior accessory dwelling unit does not count towards the floor area ratio that we would consider to trigger a discretionary review for something like this. It does mean that hypothetically, possibly depending on some things like utility easements in the back, you know, or other rules, like if the backyard is available for use, they could add additional living area as an ADU and it would not get discretionary review. It would just be a ministerial automatic approval. And I think that, I mean, there's some legitimacy to the concern that they could be getting up to, you know, a 0.75, 0.8 type ratio by adding something like that. But to some degree, respect the goodwill of the homeowner that they want to use their space, but.
Yeah. And in the same respect, there might have been other projects approved that would have exceeded that 0.62 ballpark.
Wind counting, yeah. I mean, the one we looked
Yeah.
at earlier, the JADU was excluded from the floor area ratio for our purposes of our review, and the total was higher with it.
Okay, that's interesting. All right.
Staff, it's been a long time since I've calculated floor area ratio, but my recollection is that it's the conditioned space. Does it also include the garage and there's a balcony on the second floor, like a covered area? Could that be subtracted out? Get them
go
under the limit?
Yeah, so we do count the garage in this case, so it is different than the realtors look at square footage when, if you're buying a house. We include the garage, basically because we're looking at mass. So that's what's unusual. So we do it.
It's true on lot coverage. I just couldn't remember on floor area ratio.
Right.
So there's a second floor kind of area. It's got the balcony and whatnot. Is that already subtracted out in the square footage for the second floor?
That balcony has been included because it is covered. So that calculation to get to the 0.64 is 3,182 divided by the 5,000 square foot lot, which is 0.636. So I rounded up to 0.64.
And you're saying that must be counted as floor area?
I believe it should be counted because it is enclosed.
It's not.
Unless
It has a roof over it, but it's not enclosed. So I'm wondering if that gets us a way to get them, take away 80 square feet and get them under the limit. Again, it's been many years since I've done that count, so I
Yeah.
don't claim to be correct, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, if it's not enclosed, it is not included in floor area.
That's correct.
But because the roof covering though would count it as part of the lot coverage. If the roof covering, like a covered patio at the first level of the house, or one that extends out over, that would be counted in lot coverage, but not floor area.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought. So are we able to subtract out? It looks like it's almost 9 foot by 9 foot or so. Is that?
I'm gonna check through
This is
Bluebeam.
the area that's between the office and the master bath. Is that what we're discussing?
Yes.
Correct.
So-
It has like a tile floor pattern on the floor plan.
This diagram shows it as being a 7 foot 6 inch square. So 7.5
So the
square.
window dimensions, it's 8'9" clear in one direction and then probably the other direction as well.
I think that's inclusive of the walls, but yeah, I mean, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 80 square feet.
It's 8'9" clear on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Probably
Oh,
split the other
yeah,
one.
you're right. I was looking at the window measurements.
Yes. The concern I have for the Commissioner Kuhn is what happens on another lot that's, say, a different shape or configuration, and we've been I haven't been on the commission that long, but this is the biggest lot coverage I've seen so far. And so, I agree the footprint is not growing, which is great. The lot coverage is staying the same basically, but I just don't want to start getting too far above the established limit, which is 0.55 for this zone. We're like 16% over that. I don't know if that can be exceeded if there's like a formal variance application. I don't know if that was included in here. I do note on the cover sheet that floor area ratio is not calculated, only lot coverage for the plans. But if we can squeeze under by subtracting out this balcony, I'll be happy to approve it.
Sorry, can I ask are you saying it's the largest lot coverage? So that's the floor plate divided by the lot size 5,000, or is it the largest FAR?
FAR.
Okay, so, but it's not the largest lot coverage then.
I don't think so. I mean, again, with the 80, the one we looked at earlier,
Yeah.
so it's much more significant lot coverage, but
Okay. Right, of course.
back out the 80.
Yeah.
I just want to, we have rules and I'm fine pushing them to the limit, but when we go over them, I just want to make sure we're doing it for a good reason. And I agree that the bulk of the house is not really anything that I would object to. I just want to see if we can get the number down here using this little bit of open air space.
It looks like if this diagram is representing what was done for the FAR calculation, then I think it already was excluded.
Yeah, that's correct. So just through Bluebeam, this is a very, very rough perimeter that I've drawn, but it does look like the balcony has already been excluded from that 1,100 that you saw on the first page.
Through the chair, Christy, I thought you indicated that it was included earlier.
I thought it was, but through my staff report, I only used this number. And so I did not check whether or not this second floor addition included the balcony on that 1,100. So that is my mistake.
I mean, in the absence of some sort of record of kind of what have been the areas and floor area ratios, I mean, if you look around that neighborhood, there are definitely units that from the street present a similar effect. There are other, some of them they're on the slope and they have the tuck under garage, and then they have a main floor and an upper floor. And, the upper floor is typically somewhat stepped in. It's hard to speculate on what the FAR would be just looking at it on Google Maps and aerial view and street view, but it's the overall look of it from the street seems comparable. The neighboring houses have comparable side setbacks. And in terms of precedent, I mean, as I observed, like the point of the FAR rule is that when you exceed a certain FAR, you get a discretionary review. And so it gives the opportunity to say, okay, you're over this line we set, but the line is fundamentally arbitrary. And, that's the question, I think, is not what the number is, it's whether the overall effect of the property is going to be, beneficial or detrimental, and balancing the needs of this homeowner with the effect on their neighbors. And so I think regardless of what the exact floor number is, the question is whether the project is detrimental to the neighbors.
I respect that opinion. I just disagree that that's the only criteria.
Yeah, through the chair, we've really held other people to that number really firmly. I can only remember one that we allowed to exceed by a fraction, and that involved kind of a multi-use area that was kind of dug into the crawl space. I think it's well designed and I think it's thoughtful. I do think it adds a significant mass to the upper floor, and unless I'm afraid I can't vote yes on this project after the experiences we've gone through, and so I don't want to set a new precedent for going above that number.
Is this a precedent that is in writing somewhere that the applicant would have had a way to know about?
Well, I would say that they know that they're over the limit by 0.9, and they didn't even mention that in their summary sheet on the drawings. They just ignored the calculation altogether. They just did lot coverage. So I think they were aware of it. I mean, all they have to do is shave down a little bit off their master bedroom and they'll get it. It's a very large master bedroom.
My understanding, this was just my guess, maybe staff can clarify, but yeah, the 0.55 is in ink. That's firm and clear. And then my understanding was that the Crestmore precedent was the 0.62, and that was something that when an applicant is working with staff to bring their project forward, that would be something, I was guessing, more word of mouth, something that they would be advised on.
Through the chair, I can't help but continue to raise the discussion that we're looking at a number, and I agree from the point of rules. I do. I'm a rule follower. I completely support that. I don't believe that we should arbitrarily, just because we have a change of a thought. However, but because there isn't any change in the FAR, I think we're not setting precedents. There is a very valid reason why this one works, whereas others we have declined or held them tight to it is there was an impact to something, and that's not the case in the situation. That's why I look at it differently. And I can't possibly remember, but I know that we've gone over 0.62. And I'll stand corrected if it's not the case, but I do, I've been on there a long time, but it has happened. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, right. I mean, there's the whole sort of slippery slope arguments, right? That, oh, if you do 0.64 today, you'll somehow be forced to do 0.67 tomorrow. And I fundamentally, I don't feel that there is any kind of sort of slippery slope aspect or precedent that can be taken advantage of, because the rule that triggers the discretionary review will remain the same. And the next project that comes, if somebody, I mean, honestly, I doubt any architect anywhere in the Bay Area is going to be looking at this particular project and pick up that number. And, like that's sort of not how it works. But even if somebody did, and they come with something that's a 0.67 or a 0.68, it triggers the exact same discretionary review. And we have the discretion to look at it and say, yeah, no, this is really unpleasant and it's going to make the neighbors' lives miserable, and reject it. I mean, we have recently had a second story addition that we said, you know what, this is too much, and pushed it back for revision. We retain that power regardless of what we do on this project. So like if people believe that this is overly bulky, like, fine, that, you can look at it and make that review. But I think the heuristic number that we use to trigger discretionary review, like just setting a hard line on that heuristic, is a mistake, with respect.
And through the chair, I think that at the counter, there's discussion about that. When I hear that the applicant purposely ignored it, I think that's quite a strong opinion. And I believe that if it was that strong, that the staff at the counter would have had those discussions. And so I don't believe that it was an intention of ignoring. I believe that we have seen architects ask for the most, and then we have shaved things off in past times and restructured and changed things. But I do believe that those discussions do take place at the counter, and it comes before us with or without information. I don't know. Sometimes yes, sometimes not.
And I guess I'll observe on top of that. I mean, my point with asking, like, oh, is this 0.62 written down anywhere? I think enforcing a rule that the applicant did not have a way to know of in advance, right? You're saying this person is now going to spend thousands of dollars, a month of time for a cycle of revisions. It's a bad way to run a local government. That the rules need to be clear in advance.
The rule is 0.55, I would just remind you that.
But if you're going to reject it for a bit, right? I mean, that rule triggered this discretionary review.
Not solely that rule. I believe the addition is more than 50%.
Sure. Yeah, more than 50%. There's a variety of things that would result in it receiving review. But it's like,
my point is, I just vividly remember we've made people, again, I haven't been on the commission that long, but we've made people shrink their house to get under 0.62 previously in this area. don't know the exact house, but I know it's happened. And, I think there's a generous size rooms on the ground floor and upper floor that could be shrunk very slightly, maybe move them in 2 feet or so from where they are now, and they would hit the goal and still have basically the same house.
Through the chair, I have a suggestion.
Mhm.
I do not like to delay projects at all, but if I know that the architect is not on, but the owner, it could be. And sometimes there's that discussion with the designer that could say, you know what, no issue, we'd be happy to do that. Or we want it presented as is, and then we'll take our chances with the outcome. So is there that opportunity to have a discussion with the owner or architect if the architect is available?
How does staff feel about bringing back in, was it Ms. Valencia?
Mhm.
Yes, that's
It's at your
fine.
discretion.
That's fine. That's at the commission's discretion if you'd like to
Yeah,
hear from the applicant.
certainly.
So I am on the line. This is Brenda Valencia, the owner, and I think we're a little bit thrown off here because it did go to the Planning Commission, and Commissioner, I believe it's Commissioner Madden, you were part of that commission as well, and so it was approved the first time around. I think we could have made some changes beforehand if this had been brought to our attention at that time, and kind of worked on that. And now it's kind of just, we're a little thrown off, to be quite honest. Yeah, there's multiple homes in our neighborhood that we've seen that are pretty big. We've driven around the Crestmore 3 neighborhood. We've seen homes that are at least 3,000 square feet. We've taken a look on Redfin. We've taken a look on Zillow. So we know that they are out there. I don't think it's out of, it doesn't look out of place. And once again, we are just filling the open area. So we currently have, like, when we walk through the front, we have a front gate, and then it's just all open area to the front door. It would just be filling that in. We're not adding anywhere extra in the front. I mean, in that area. So, yeah, it's only a couple feet forward of extension. Sorry.
Yeah, so regarding the ARC review, I don't believe this issue was brought to our attention, and I just noticed it tonight when I was looking through the packet. So you're correct, we did not discuss this at the ARC meeting, largely because, again, it wasn't brought to our attention that it was over the limit in the presentation, nor was it tonight. So that's unfortunate. But I just don't characterize this as filling in the empty space. There is an addition to the front of the house. This looks like 14 feet. I'm reading these plans correctly.
Yes. Hello. How you doing? This is the other homeowner here. Yeah, that 14 feet that you're talking about moving forward is still in line with the rest of the houses on the block. It's not like it's still in line with the garages for both of the neighbors. So I understand that the 14 feet sounds big, but it's still in proportion with the rest of the neighborhood. It's not like it's sticking out like a sore thumb, and it's
the house looks great. It's not that. Again, I passed it along to the commission. I think it looks great. It's just this technical matter on the floor area ratio that would be, something that we'd be diverting from previous rulings on this commission. And it's a bit concerning for me because Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with your house as far as the way it looks, the size of the lot, how it is relative to the neighborhood, but it is technically over the limit by quite a bit. And then there's this special limit that is carved out for this neighborhood, and we're over that as well.
I
That's all I'm getting at.
would make two observations. One is just to say again that if it wasn't over the, if it was under the 0.55 limit, we wouldn't even be here, right? I mean, that's the whole point. There are a variety of reasons. This is one of them. But if you do an addition and you stay under the various rules, it's just ministerial. It doesn't come for discretion. And I mean, I think that maybe this is, my little bit of a libertarian streak coming out. The question should not be, oh, why should we let you do something on your own land? The question should be, do we have a good reason to stop you? And it exceeds some number is not a good reason. That doesn't mean it hurts anyone. If it doesn't hurt the neighbors, then who cares what the number is?
I don't think that's what we're saying. I think we're saying it can be abused by others or exceeded by others in other projects in other parts of the town. And do we want?
They would be subject to our review. The same as, right? If you exceed the number, then you get the discretion to ask the question: does it harm the neighbors? Does it harm the neighborhood?
I agree with you there.
So I guess I'm looking, to put my cards on the table, I'm leaning towards an approval. And I am asking the question, other than this calculation yields a slightly higher number, I do not see harm to the neighborhood. I mean, they extend forward what's on the diagram, the right side of the house. I've forgotten where north is on this, but if you look at the footprint of the adjacent property to the left, it's quite comparable. Like that one, that right side of the house has already been bought forward to a similar degree.
Yeah, there's no issue with the footprint. It's just pure.
And then like I said, I mean, looking around, like I would at least suspect that some of the other properties in the neighborhood, if you do this calculation where you include the garage, because they have the tuck under garage and then 2 additional floors, I would bet there's some of these that are going to come out even higher.
Yes, and that's kind of what we did. We did quite a bit of research, and we kind of went big house, in the neighborhood, the biggest houses. We went around and we looked at them, and we researched the square footage, and we came up with the number that we got based upon those houses which are in our immediate neighborhood. So we're not going super over the limit. We're doing what the houses that are similar to us in our own neighborhood. So it's not like we want to be super breaking these rules or going above this percentage. We just seen houses that we liked, and what we wanted out of our house was based upon our family needs. So we went with that number. It's not that we were trying to do it to break rules or we didn't want to stay within the regulations. It's for a reason.
No, I'm not accusing anybody of intentionally trying to break the rules. I'm just saying it's over the limit. That's all I'm saying. And do we want to consider that?
I'd just like to point out the first project that we approved on Easton, the floor area ratio is 0.64 if you include the ADU.
But we're not allowed to consider that because it's that's a new recent rule in the last year or two, I'd say.
We're considering it, we're talking, right? You say consider it or not. If they were
not allowed to consider it's an ADU attached as well.
Right. If they so if this owner resubmitted the project with an ADU, then they would just get through, right?
Yes.
And we wouldn't even be talking about it. In fact, they can even go larger than what they've proposed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Biasotti.
So I've been listening to this and I'm getting everybody's point. Commissioner Harmon, rather. I get where you're coming from about telling people what to do with their property, and Commissioner Lethen and Commissioner Madden, I'm right there with you because I sat through those meetings where we limited people to 6.62. And in looking at the overall situation, what I'm seeing is perhaps for this one, rather than send it back and make people redo things and for 0.2 over the limit or 0.2, maybe we should just approve this one as is, because it's a decent project. But I think as a commission, we need to have a conversation about the 0.62. I'm not comfortable going over it because we limited people in the past to that number. And it was very hard for some of those people to keep their projects under that. And it was a very difficult conversation. And we have brand new staff members who sit at that counter who are not, that don't have the institutional or historical knowledge of what we've talked about. So I think it's kind of unfair that we, at this juncture for this particular project, hold them to that number, seeing as it's how it's so close. I completely agree that I am still for the 0.62, but perhaps we should separate those two conversations to this project, and then we should have a conversation perhaps afterwards about whether we want to hang on to that 0.62. Because it was very emotional and was very hard, and there was a lot of projects that we looked at that we turned back because they went over that 6.2, and I don't feel good about going over 6.2 because we denied other people that in the past. So that's my 2 cents.
Through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durazo.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Commissioner Biasotti just said, at least a portion of what he just said. I'm inclined to approve. I like the project. I think a conversation does need to happen. The second to newest member on the committee, and if you have asked me about this precedent this morning or earlier today, I wouldn't have been able to articulate it. I mean, I've only been on the committee for about 1.5 years, but I think that's a conversation that needs to take place. And we're talking about precedent. I mean, the homeowner's making a point. It did go through our ARC, right? So there has to be some consistency with that. We can't just say as a committee, well, we didn't notice it the first time, or it wasn't important enough to discuss on November 10th. I just don't buy that. And I don't want to send them back and have them redo this because of a number that we're disagreeing on or we're not all landing on. I'm inclined to approve.
Yeah, and I will just observe that one of the example houses that has a tuck under garage, and then it has a main floor of comparable size reaching to the, distance to the curb, and then a second floor is basically across the street at 2320 Bennington. I mean, I really think this is not a particularly exceptional design for the neighborhood, and I would be willing to bet that 2320 is going to come out to greater than 0.62 as well, given the overall footprint. If not, it's, and the point is, it's right, if it's very close to that, then, who's it hurting? But yeah, I think, if we're going to apply some sort of strict scrutiny at this number, then people should know about this number earlier in the process. And, I mean, to be honest, I think it may have been a mistake to apply it as strictly as it sounds like it was in some cases.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Johnson, yeah.
Excuse me. I want to just exchange the conversation with you, basically. In the past, when we have adhered to that 0.62, there was discussion with the architect, and we were able to get to a solution very much quicker because the architect was able to give us input, and we came to choices and options. We held it out to them, and they adhered to it. We're not having that opportunity, so that's why the conversation is expanded. The other thing is that we have made many exceptions to garages. And so do we there's a lot to look at these rules. And I think bottom line, it's the discretion of the commission to look at what's the impact. Is there a detrimental impact to an outside source? And that's the key thing, to look at all those pieces. And it's not completely black and white. And I feel strongly that rules are important, but there are exceptions to rules. And there are variances in use permits and other ways to make things happen. Applies in ADU as it was discussed earlier. And I never want to put an applicant in a position to beat the system, but to be able to have a conversation that says, okay, this every decision I make, I look at it as it's not because I look at those decisions that I want to hold to my word. I want to hold to my reason behind it. But I can make a good case for it, and it's valid to me, obviously, then I go forward. And if it isn't, then I stick to that rule as well. It isn't a black and white from my point of view in every circumstance.
Yeah, I will acknowledge that around the question of the ADU, I mean, the concern is that we approve this thing that's slightly larger than the usual, and then an ADU can be added later. And so I was curious, it looks like this backs onto the canyon, and I wasn't sure if staff had any knowledge around any easements at the back in terms of whether that space actually is usable to further expand. Because if not, I think that then that sort of, it's not basically not an issue, that they're sort of like, okay, it's a little over, but it's not expected to further expand. So it was just curious.
Yes, I can kind of touch on that one. The back of our house is a hill, and our property goes back, a couple feet, but we have one of the V drains that basically goes down the whole street, and we're kind of the top of that V drain, so it's almost impossible for us to add anything in the back, just due to that drain being kind of, I wouldn't say in the center of our backyard, but it's significantly in the way of actually being able to put any kind of addition back there.
Okay, that's kind of what I expected from looking at it on the map. Yeah, I mean, I'm coming back to, I mean, I guess maybe I'm not persuading you, Vice Chair Madden, but I think my feeling is that, the rule is the 0.55 that triggers us to have the discretion, and that then the right question to ask about this is, okay, it's high, but does it hurt anyone? Do we have a reason to say no? That you shouldn't vote no based on some technical calculation. There should be a health or safety issue to the public that is what drives the decision to tell somebody, no, you can't build this thing on your land. And that's sort of as a matter of principle how I feel around how we should do these considerations. Commissioner Lethen?
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Biasotti. There has got to be a discussion about this. There can't be some like hush hush, at the counter. Oh, it says 0.55, but we go to the point. That is not working here. And staff has to be clear on that. We have to be clear on that, and it needs to be clear to the applicant. And I agree that at this phase, it's not. I don't want to tell them no, but I also don't want to prove something that we told these people whose homes blew up and they lost loved ones, they can't go over 0.62. So it's really a nasty little situation we're in. And I'm a little annoyed. So I'm inclined to approve this with the agreement from staff that there's going to be a topic raised about this, and it needs to be clear to every applicant, to every staff member, and to the entire commission where our limit is, because this is ridiculous and it's not fair to the applicant. It's not fair to us.
I can get on board with that.
It's easy.
I get on board with that too, based on Commissioner Biasotti's excellent recommendation. I think, again, it's over the limit than what I'm used to seeing. But again, it really doesn't affect the character of the house, to Chair Harmon's point. But at some point, I think we need to draw the line and maybe get it codified or in writing somewhere, so it's not abused in future projects. So I think I'd be happy to go along with Commissioner Biasotti's suggestion, and sounds like Commissioner Lethen is of the same mind. So
I will fourth that sentiment that if it's in writing, if it's clear, if it is an objective standard that is disclosed to people up front, that's totally great. Would you care to? Oh, Commissioner Biasotti.
Sorry. So given everyone else is kind of going along with that, I see no reason not to approve this one this evening. And I think at the same time, I would like to offer to staff to know that moving forward, if you come up with something that's more than 0.62, we're going to have the same conversation again. I think that's the simplest way of handling it. So, Michael, you may want to let your staff know moving forward that that's going to be an issue.
Certainly, yes.
I think that's the simplest way of handling this.
I think it would also be helpful to make the summary tabulations state in the presentation it is over the limit by 0.55 is the limit. We are at this. I don't know if that happened here or if it happened in the ARC review. So just that's why this thing might have been handled at that point in time, as the applicant said, because I sure as hell didn't notice it back then, but I did notice it tonight. So, but yeah,
I was not on that architectural review board, but it definitely is in the packet. There's a table, a fairly prominent table in the.
That's where I noticed it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was included in both presentations. It was essentially the same PowerPoint presentation for the ARC as this evening too.
I agree that square footage was tabulated. I don't know if it was stated that it was over. Here the limit is 0.55 and we are at 0.64. I don't know if that was stated. I could be wrong.
All right, well, I will agree that if we are going to impose this as a limit, that staff should consider having some sort of written guidelines to make sure that everybody, anybody bringing a project, has this clear. That said, to avoid belaboring things, Commissioner Biasotti, since you, I think, forged our consensus, would you care to do the honors of making a motion?
Sure, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I've lost it here.
Where did I? Well, all right. I will move.
I'll motion that we approve this project.
I have it. It's looks like it was a motion to approve use permit UP 22004, architectural review permit AR 22007, based on findings 1 to 8, conditions of approval 1 to 24, and the revised plans to include new windows. So I guess either I can make the motion, you can second, or you consider it that your motion.
Why don't you go ahead and make it and I'll second it.
Okay, all right. I consider it so moved.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Aye.
Commissioner Lethen.
Aye.
7-0 motion passes.
All right. So should anyone wish to appeal this, there is a 10-day period for appeal to the council with a fee. If anybody does wish to make an appeal, they should contact planning@sanbruno.ca.gov or call 650-616-7074. I believe that concludes our public hearings. And I believe we have an exciting item of business. Does staff want to introduce this or?
Sure. Every December, the Planning Commission rotates the chair position, and so there's basically nominations would be taken from the floor and voted upon for the position of chair and vice chair. So I'll leave it up to the the current chair to
I'm
guide us through
exercising
that
the
process.
privilege of serving my final meeting as chair. We have a tradition of rotating the position, sort of. So our most senior member who has not served is offered the opportunity, and it is my pleasure to nominate my discussant. I think we really have some very interesting, respectful disagreements, and I always appreciate your point of view. I would like to nominate Commissioner and my current able vice chair, Gerard Madden, to be chair, and Commissioner Marco Durazo for vice chair. Do I have any seconds on those nominations?
I'd second.
Thank you, Commissioner Biasotti. Do we need any discussion, or can we simply call a roll call?
Good to just do a roll call would be fine.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Aye.
Commissioner Lethen.
Aye.
7-0, motion passed.
Well, congratulations, Chair Madden and Vice Chair Durazo.
Thank you. Just want to say you did a great job, RS, all year. Super organized. I know for sure I will not do as good a job as you.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat offline.
But I will do my best. So thank you.
All right, to get us
Through the chair, I'd like just to acknowledge you, Chair Harmon, for leading us well, always raising the bar and looking at things from a really fair perspective, and giving me a lot of opportunity to think outside the box. And I wanted to just acknowledge you for that. You've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Although I guess as planning commissioners, aren't we we're supposed to keep the thinking inside the box, appropriate setbacks and step backs.
Wow, we're human beings.
All right, I think we have a couple items from staff.
Yes, so the first is the selection of 3 individuals who would like to volunteer for the January 12th, 2023 ARC meeting. We do not have any agenda items for this meeting, but that could change. So if you'd like to volunteer, I'll take a show of hands. Biasotti, Johnson, and Durazo. Thank you.
I can be listed as an alternate. I don't have anything in particular that evening. I did serve on the most recent one, so I didn't directly volunteer, but I'm available. Need an alternate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then finally, attached in your packet, we had the meeting calendars for the year, just to make you aware of our meeting dates. And so any comments on those?
I think I emailed you in advance of the meeting.
Yes.
I am going to preemptively suggest that we bump back the November Planning Commission and Architectural Review committees by a week in order to prevent it from running up against Thanksgiving.
Okay. We don't need an official vote on that, but if other commissioners are in agreement, we can make that change to the calendar. So the dates, those dates would be Thursday. They would be Thursdays. So Thursday, November 9th.
Yeah, I've forgotten the exact numbers, but the way it is currently, the Planning Commission meeting is in the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and if we bumped it back, it would be like, it's not ridiculously early in the month. It's still a 4-week gap relative to the previous meeting. And then you end up with a 5-week gap going to the December meeting instead of having the 5 between October and November.
Right, yeah.
Through the chair, I believe that that's when the city council meets though, at the overall calendar.
Except we would do Thursday. So
That's a good point.
the normal architecture review meeting is November 16th, so that would be your planning commission meeting. And then the 9th, the Thursday prior. Well, actually, we could even do the 7th, the Tuesday, the 7th.
For the architectural review, you mean?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, for architecture review. Well, yeah, that's probably a little early in the month. So
I mean, I think we
For the
have time to figure out the exact details, but the general
Yeah.
principle that putting the planning commission meeting on the Tuesday immediately before Thanksgiving seems like a bad plan, and we should figure out an alternate plan. That was my main point.
yeah.
And through the chair, we also have to think about Veterans Day, because when you say the 10th, people are off that day, because it's the holiday. It falls
Oh, correct. Yeah.
on Friday. And I have always held out that the first and third Tuesday of the month is planning commission. And we have, over the past several years, have not had 2 meetings a month, and we used to. So the first and third is what we've held to in past times. So I think that's probably how it's still considered, although we don't use it.
In any case, I think I don't, if folks generally agree that putting it in Thanksgiving week isn't a great idea, I'm sure that our able staff can come up with a good plan given 11 months notice.
Yes, and I think, it's really a function of what we have coming before you. I mean, it's nice certainly for staff to have that flexibility. So we will keep that in mind as we're scheduling items for November, but definitely I think what we're hearing is it's agreed that we would not meet on the 21st.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, item 10, comments from members. I had received an invitation to an event that is perhaps interesting to planning commissioners from the nonprofit Actera, which I forwarded the invitation to Michael, which you can, I guess, forward to the rest of the commission. So it's not coming from me, and it's not not creating a meeting. But it was an interesting, Actera is like a nonprofit focused on sustainability issues, and they're hosting an event that has former Mayor Rick Bonilla of San Mateo discussing the version of REACH codes that they adopted there, which is somewhat more aggressive than what we have adopted so far, as well as a few other folks talking about how public policy can encourage a shift towards sustainable electrification. So possibly of interest if you are interested in that sort of public policy issue. That was the item I had. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. Seeing no hands, appreciate the interesting conversation this evening, and we are adjourned. Our next special meeting will be held on January 5th, 2023, I believe, to review the new amended housing element. January 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And I will look forward to seeing everyone in a couple of weeks.
Great. Take
Have
care.
a wonderful holiday, everyone.
Happy
Yes.
holidays,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Good night.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.